I heard that Jane is going to be made of on at Andrew's wedding. What? I also heard that I can get 50% free airtime every time I recharge with MTN. It's impossible, right?
I don't know about Engine Jane, but the 50% Mahala airtime is no rumor. Recharge and get 50% Mahala airtime every day at any time to make free MTN to MTN calls, send SMSs, and use the internet. Believe it. Now that's bigger and better Mahala for you. Conditions apply. Minimum recharge value is 10 Rand.
The Talk Show.
This is the Talk Shop on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, and I am Masachaba Mtolo in conversation with Chris Jacobs, a conflict resolution expert at OIM, a business consultancy, on our talkback session tonight as we look at the contentious Labour Relations Amendment Bill. Now, Chris wrote a very interesting article where he talks about what employers need to do in the context of the new bill being approved or rejected, and why change needs at a union, employee and employer level. And we'll be talking about some of these issues in a short while. But Chris, before we go there, let's specifically focus on the strike ballot. There's been calls for the inclusion of balloting, that it be included and it must take place before strike action. Explain that to us. What exactly does it mean?
Well, at this stage, there's in the current LRA, there's certain procedures that need to be followed, which means a process in layman's terms where you negotiate, and when you come to a point where there's complete breakdown and the parties cannot meet one another, there's a process to be followed, and you go to the CCMA, and in the end, if they cannot reconcile the parties, then they would issue a certificate, and that would mean that you can then strike. Mm-hmm. And that would be a so-called protected strike. Very often there's great misunderstandings about protected strikes, unprotected strikes, and illegal strikes. Now, previously what we had was so-called legal and illegal strikes. These days we have protected strikes and unprotected strikes, and any strike can become an illegal strike if illegal activities take place within the process of striking. So what the amendment bill then also proposed was that before you go over, and even though you follow the process, you would give the members the last opportunity and the last say to decide whether they want to go on strike, and in the process forego any income. Now, with the ANC members of the portfolio deciding that they are not going to support that part of the net black proposals, they have now effectively put that to rest. So it is business as usual as we currently have. So currently we do have a situation where in some constitutions of some of the unions, they do have a strike ballot. Mm-hmm. So it goes back to the members and a democratic process to decide whether they want to forego income or not. Mm-hmm. With this, it's just things as usual. Now, the problem with which, and that's why I said earlier on, that we really have missed out an opportunity to send out the right signal. This could have been one of the mechanisms that could have been put in place to give members a final say to say whether we want to go on strike and whether we want to forego income. Now, I think the sad part is that very often when reported, the media very often reports that Company X loses X amount in terms of production. Company Y loses X amount in terms of income. But what about the employee? What about the employee that loses out a certain amount of income, and as with some of the strikes, and especially the long protracted strikes, where they would not make up that difference in terms of where they initially went in at a certain percentage in terms of a demand, and then what they settle on in the end. In some cases, they would never make that up in their whole working life. And that's the sad part of it. And I believe that very often that part is not being seen, because very often the members are being used as cannon fodder to also just prove a different point.
But it seems that is on one side on the issue of the strike ballot and labour brokers, and the unions are on the other side. And by unions, I would then also include employees, because the unions represent the employees. Will there ever be a seeing eye to eye, a compromise on these particular issues, or will we forever it be a case of, okay, we've lost or the other side has lost, kind of relating to these contentious issues?
Well, what we have to remember is that any union only represents X amount of employees of an employer.
But the union must have a certain amount of members in order to be recognized. So if we're talking about the unions that are recognized in the workplace, we are talking about organizations that represent the majority of the will of the employees.
That's correct, and therefore give no say to the will of the people. So let them have the final say whether they want to forego income and go to a strike, or it being decided by officials that they have gone through the right procedure, they have gone through everything in terms of the CCMA and what it provides for, and now we just officially have a strike.
Okay. Let's take some calls on this. 0891-104-207 is the number to dial to join our discussion with Chris Jacobs, conflict resolution expert at OIM, a business consultancy, or SMS us on 34701. SMS number is 34701 and SMSs are charged at R2, or visit our Facebook page, SAFM Radio. Our Facebook page is SAFM Radio. Lemias in Bushbuck Ridge, I'm coming to you in a short while.
During the month of June, we honor our youth and their contribution to freedom and success of our country. We urge the youth to join us in the campaign to eradicate drug and substance abuse, which is tearing families and communities apart. Let us support affected families. Let us support law enforcement agencies to bring drug peddlers to book. Let us empower children and the youth to refuse to take drugs, and for those who are addicted to obtain assistance. Working together, let us create communities that are free of drugs and substance abuse. I thank you.
The Talk Shop.
This is The Talk Shop on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. I am